My sister doesn't want to help me even when I'm sick, so I stopped giving her money, but now the bank wants its share, and my sister is desperate. Well, here's the thing. I've been financially supporting my younger sister for years, and lately, things have happened that made me question everything. Let me start from the beginning because right now I need advice more than ever. I'm the older sister by about 8 years. She's 20, and I'm 28. We come from a fairly close family, and as the oldest, I've always felt a sense of responsibility. Our parents did the best they could, but money was often tight. When I got a good job right after college, I felt proud to be able to help my family financially. When I started working, my sister had just graduated from high school. I've been supporting her to some extent ever since. When she went to college, I paid for things our parents couldn't, like clothes, a laptop, makeup, and even funded her university trips. I didn't mind because I thought that's what older sisters do. I had lived through a life of lack, and I knew how horrible it felt to see your friends with brand-name clothes, new phones, and going on trips that you couldn't join. You feel left out and miserable for not being able to do even the basics with your friends. Plus, I had the means to help her, and things were going well until recently. She'd ask for help occasionally, and I was always willing to pitch in. Whenever she sent me a message saying, "Hey sis, I'm short on cash, can you lend me $50 for groceries?" I'd send it without thinking twice. I felt good being in a position to help her, especially because I knew how hard it could be to balance work, school, and money. It wasn't just the occasional $50 here and there. In her second year of college, I helped pay for an entire semester when she lost her scholarship due to her grades dropping. She swore it was a one-time mistake and promised to get back on track, which she did, and that made me proud. There was even a time when she called me saying she was going to travel with her friends. She had already booked the flight and hotel but didn't have enough money to spend. She wanted to cancel, but I intervened and gave her the money so she could go on vacation. I didn't want her to be left out and be the only one who couldn't go due to lack of money. You see, I have no problem spending on her, but what's really been bothering me is that I never get anything in return from her. Of course, I didn't expect financial help, but I did expect her to support me the same way I supported her. Unfortunately, that never happens. I started to realize this a while ago. 4 months ago, my husband and I moved into a new apartment. We both had a long workday, and all I needed was a little help unpacking some boxes. I called my sister, thinking she'd be happy to come over and lend a hand for a couple of hours. But she had plans. I don't remember the reason she gave, but it was something trivial, like her friends coming over to her house. Although she said she'd come help the next day, she didn't. My expectations were frustrated. Then I thought maybe I was feeling too entitled to her help. She has a life too, and I can't expect her to drop everything and rush to help me last minute. Then, there was another time when I had the flu. I was in bed for days and felt awful. One of those days after my husband left for work, I realized I was out of mints and was craving some hot soup. Her house is closer than my husband's office, so I asked her to pick up some soup and medicine since I couldn't leave the house. She said she'd try to stop by, but she never showed up. When I confronted her about it later, she said she was caught up in a task and had forgotten. That hurt because it was a serious situation, and I needed help. I had never asked much of her, and the one time I really needed her, she failed me. Later, she apologized, saying she was too busy to take care of me. I let it slide and didn't make a big deal about it, but that was the first time I really began to feel the imbalance. Here I was, constantly helping her through tough times, and when I asked for something as small as an hour of her time, she couldn't even bother. I know it might sound easy to say I could just cut off all support and be done with it, but it's not that simple. I love her a lot. It's so complicated that it's hard to talk about with anyone. For example, when I got married, she was there for me. She helped with everything from shopping to fixing things and organizing details, not to mention she was my maid of honor, and I bought her designer clothes for the reception. The point is, I help her out of empathy because I've been in situations where I couldn't do fun things because of lack of money. However, I don't feel that she reciprocates my love. It's not that she's disrespectful or anything. She's extremely affectionate and thoughtful when she's with me, but when she's not around and I ask for help, I don't get the same support from her. How do I explain it? It's like I would move mountains for her, but I don't think she would do the same for me. I talked to my husband about it, and he told me that I can't expect the same level of love in return. Her birthday's coming up, and every year I've bought her something, but this year, I don't want to give her anything. I'm hurt, so to speak, because I don't feel appreciated. I also have doubts because I don't want to ruin what I have with my sister. Our relationship has been beautiful so far. What should I do? Update 1. The moderator took a while to post my story, and I apologize if I sounded confused to many of you. The truth is, I was confused, which is why I posted here seeking advice. However, now I've moved past that state of confusion, and I decided to confront her directly instead of making assumptions. One day we were having lunch together, and as usual, I paid the bill because she's still not working. She's in her last year of university. As I mentioned before, I don't mind paying for her as long as she values and appreciates my care. On the way back, I decided to bring up the topic. I told her about my feelings, how I felt that she took me for granted, always asking for my help but never giving anything in return. To her credit, she didn't get mad at me. Instead, she stayed silent and apologized. She said that she loved me and never meant to take advantage of me. She claimed that she had always had a genuine reason for turning down my requests and acknowledged that it was valid for me to feel that way. She promised to improve, and I believed her. I wanted to give her another chance to fix our relationship. For a while after our conversation, things seemed to improve a bit. I didn't give her a gift for her birthday, and she said she would have been happy just with me attending the celebration. She also said that now that I'm married, she understood that I had other commitments and that it was okay if I wasn't her top priority anymore. She was pretty mature in admitting this so gracefully. She didn't ask for money after that, and I thought maybe we had finally turned a corner. Then, nearly 2 months later, she called me saying that her phone had dropped and broken. She couldn't afford to buy a new one, and asked if I could lend her the money. I hesitated, but finally agreed because I knew she needed the phone for her schoolwork. I sent the money, and a few days later, I saw in her status that she was showing off the latest iPhone, not an affordable model as I expected. I was in shock. The money I gave her only covered half the price of an iPhone, meaning she paid the other half herself. If she had that much money, she could have bought any other decent phone instead of borrowing from me. I confronted her and she shrugged, saying, "Well, if I'm going to buy a new phone, it might as well be a good one." I didn't ask where she got the rest of the money from, but she said she had saved it from her part-time job. I replied, "You spent your savings on that phone while struggling half the time to make ends meet?" She looked tired and said, "It's just once." That was the moment I realized that she wasn't just struggling financially. She was living beyond her means and expected me to fund her lifestyle. It wasn't about need anymore. It was about convenience. A few weeks later, she contacted me saying she wanted to buy a car and needed my help with the down payment. The idea scared me. She wanted a car when she could barely support herself. Her university is in the city, well connected by public transportation. If she lived in the suburbs, I would have understood. She wanted the car just because she thought it would make her look great. I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't help with that. It was too much. As her sister, I tried to give her some financial advice, explaining that it was an unnecessary possession. She got upset because she was really excited about having a car. I suggested she wait until she got a full-time job, but she didn't want to wait. I said, "I'm not getting involved in this," and she started insisting like a 4-year-old. She said, "I know you can give me the money, but you're not doing it just to stop me from having a car." At first it was casual, but then she kept pushing, saying something that really hurt me. She accused me of neglecting her after I got married and claimed that I no longer loved her like I used to. I clarified that I still loved her, but I didn't want to keep making things easy for her. She promised it would be the last favor she'd ask for. I was upset by her insistence and told her firmly that I wasn't very angry, but she said nothing and left. Normally we stay in touch, sharing messages and such, but after that night, our conversation stopped. I didn't contact her, letting her calm down. A week later, I sent her a message saying I was planning a surprise birthday party for my husband and wanted her to handle a few things. To my surprise, she replied that she was busy and couldn't attend the party. I'm not saying she can't turn down an invitation. She has her life too, but she did it out of spite. The way she responded irritated me. She said no without any explanation, and it was so cold and clear that she was still angry with me. I felt like she was acting as if I owed her money. I confronted her about her rude response, and she called me selfish. I was speechless. How could I be the selfish one? She said I was trying to impose my financial beliefs on her, and that I was deliberately creating hardship for her just because I had lived that life. I agreed that I couldn't afford those things back in the day, which is why I allowed her to enjoy some of them, but it was outrageous for her to say that I was trying to make her suffer. I said, "If you want a car that badly, go buy one. Who's stopping you? I just advised you not to do it now and to wait until you have a full-time job. Now, it's up to you what you do." That was our last conversation. Then, on my husband's birthday, I saw her Instagram post with a new car. She didn't show up to the party. I realized our relationship had worsened, and it would be foolish to expect her to understand or appreciate me. Friends and family congratulated her on the car, but I didn't. Why would I? She didn't even have the courtesy to inform me. I found out through social media. It's been weeks, and we're no longer in touch. I'm clear about it now. I'm not going to let her take advantage anymore. Everything I did for her up until now was out of love, but that's over. Update 2. Here's an update. As I mentioned before, I cut all contact with my sister after she manipulated me into giving her money for a car and then bought it behind my back without informing me. I was living my life in peace, saving money and energy, away from all the drama. My mom sometimes lamented our fight because our bond was special, and my parents were truly proud of us. I mean, how often do you find such a strong sibling bond? But I guess everything comes to an end. The new development in the situation is that my sister contacted me 2 weeks ago. She's in debt up to her neck. She hasn't paid the car loan in over 4 months, and now the bank has repossessed the car. The collections officer has threatened to auction the car if she doesn't settle the debt in a week. Now she's crying because it's her first car, and she doesn't want to lose it this way. I told her, "No, I can't help you." She responded, "I know you're angry because I didn't attend your husband's birthday. I know it was really stupid of me to do that. You know I love you. It's just that I was really hurt. Of all people in the world, I thought you would understand. But when you turned your back on me, I felt awful. I really wanted to have this car, so I went ahead despite your warnings. Please, please, please save me. You know I love you." She bombarded me with compliments and tried to emotionally manipulate me, saying our bond is divine and that we shouldn't let our differences come between us. I accepted all the love and respect she claimed to have for me, but I reminded her that I now have certain obligations. I can't just give her money every time she asks. I reminded her of all the times I had been there for her and how she had failed me whenever I needed her help. She begged, saying she never intentionally rejected me and that she really cared about me. I told her I had my own bills to pay and couldn't keep rescuing her. Calmly, she accused me of being vengeful, rejecting her just to get back at her for not helping me in the past. She said, "You're doing this just to prove a point, to show you were right, and I was an idiot for buying this car. I can't believe you enjoy my misery. How can you be so cruel and mean?" I stood my ground, but it hurt to hear her say those things. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was trying to teach her that she needed to take responsibility for her own life. She left my house with a bitter look, and we haven't been in contact since. She called our parents and told them I abandoned her when she needed me most, calling me vengeful to anyone who would listen. Our family and relatives started getting involved, and there was a lot of gossip about it. My mom and aunt took her side, saying I was overreacting and that I should have helped her because that's what family does. My dad and my grandparents, on the other hand, understood my position and said I was right to set boundaries. It was no longer just about the money. It was about the fact that she would never learn to be responsible for herself if I kept rescuing her. She begged my parents to help her save her car, which had sentimental value to her since it was her first car, and she wanted to keep it at all costs. Somehow my mom got the money and helped her. The problem is that it's useless to help her. No one can pay off her loan for her, and given her lifestyle, it's only a matter of time before she accumulates more debt. All the money my mom lent her will probably be lost. I know it's my mom's money, and she understands the risks of lending it to my sister, but it hurts to see that money being wasted. My parents continue to work hard to save for their retirement, and instead of helping them, my sister is exploiting their kindness. Anyway, I'm trying to stay away from all this drama. I have my own life to focus on. I think distancing myself from my sister was a good decision because, considering her spending habits, she's going to create even bigger problems for herself in the long run. Update 3. I couldn't have been more right in predicting my sister's problems in my last post. Now she's in even more serious trouble than before. A few days ago, she came knocking on my door around midnight. I was startled to see her at that hour, but I had to open the door because, God forbid, she could have been in danger. As soon as I opened the door, she hugged me and started crying, completely panicked. She kept apologizing for not listening to my advice and for being resentful toward me. She was trembling and had a fever. I calmed her down and asked her to tell me the details. She had gotten herself into more trouble. After Mom helped her catch up on the car payments, she got a job and was able to pay off her loan for a while. But eventually, something happened, and she fell behind on her payments again. This time, she used her credit card to cover the car payment for several months, maxing out her credit card limit, and now she had no money to pay the credit card bills. The bank is chasing her to pay off the debt, and now she's not even worried about the car anymore. She's in bigger trouble. If she doesn't pay the credit card, they're threatening legal action, and she has no idea what to do. She begged me to intervene and pay the debt before it ruined her credit and life. I asked her why she had come so late, and she told me that the collections officer had been hounding her so relentlessly that she had been sleeping on a friend's couch for a while, but that option had run out too. She had even turned off her phone to avoid the constant and aggressive calls from the bank. I couldn't believe she had gotten herself into such a serious problem. Not only had she used the credit card to pay for the car loan, but she had also used it to buy things she couldn't afford, accumulating thousands of dollars in debt, most of it from eating out and other unnecessary expenses. Now, she didn't just need a little help. She was in over her head. It wasn't hundreds of dollars, it was thousands, and she needed it fast or the bank would take legal action against her. I felt a knot in my stomach, not only because of the amount, but because it was clear that she hadn't learned anything. She wasn't trying to fix her spending habits or organize her life. She was simply expecting me to clean up her mess, as always. I was torn. On one hand, this was serious, and I didn't want her life to fall apart. But on the other hand, I knew that if I intervened again, nothing would change. She would never learn, and this cycle would continue forever. I told her I couldn't help her. Before I could finish my sentence, she screamed at me, calling me cruel and selfish, accusing me of ruining her life out of revenge. She left me speechless. Her behavior made me feel like she was a completely different person. I didn't even recognize her anymore. My husband intervened and said that she was in serious trouble and that we should help her before things got worse. He even offered to lend her the money to pay the credit card and suggested she sell her car to help cover the debt. But here's the most incredible part. She rejected the loan. She wanted the money without any obligation to repay it, and she wasn't willing to sell her car. That was the last straw. I told her, "You are no longer my problem, and I don't care what happens to you now." She stormed out of the house and then went to our parents for help. But this time, I had already informed them about what had happened, including how she had yelled at both me and my husband. My parents also rejected her, telling her that she needed to face the consequences of her actions. It was a tough moment for everyone, but they understood that continuing to make things easier for her wouldn't do her any good in the long run. Since then, I've cut all communication with her and even muted her updates on social media so I don't have to see any news about her. I need to protect my peace, and at this point, it's clear that she has to learn to take responsibility for her own life, no matter how painful it may be for her or for me. Update 4. As many of you have been asking about my sister, I feel almost obligated to make another update. I didn't expect to have to write this, but there have been more developments in the situation. Although I still haven't spoken directly to her, The truth is that after everything that has happened, I maintain my distance to protect my mental peace. However, my mom is still in contact with her because, despite everything, she still has a soft spot for her. It's normal. She's her daughter, and I understand that she always wants the best for us. Although sometimes it seems like my mom is getting swept up in her desire to fix my sister's problems, not realizing that she's perpetuating the cycle. The big difference now is that my mom can no longer help her financially. She literally has no more money to lend because she has already exhausted all of her funds trying to save her in the past. Now, to the update about my sister. The latest I know is that the bank has finally gone ahead with the lawsuit against her. She owes more than $15,000 in credit card debt, a sum she has accumulated due to her poor financial management, including the times she used the card to pay for the car loan and all the unnecessary things she bought. It's very frustrating to think about this, because it's exactly what I feared would happen when she bought the car without listening to my warnings. Now, her debts have reached a point where there is no easy way out. At this point, she has had to sell her car, but it hasn't been as effective a solution as she expected. Although she managed to get some money from selling it, it wasn't enough. Apparently, she also owed money from the loan she took out to buy the car, so she had to use most of the money from the sale to pay off that loan. After that, she had very little left to sort out her other debts. Of course, this isn't all. My sister's financial problems are far from over. Another blow is that she had to drop out of university because she simply can't afford the classes, and honestly, she doesn't have the time or energy to focus on her studies now. She had only a few courses left to finish her degree and graduate, but due to her financial mismanagement, she's left everything unfinished. This is perhaps the saddest part of the entire situation. She had a promising future and was so close to finishing her studies and being able to work in the field she had studied, but instead, she has dug her own grave, filling it with debt. It's devastating, especially for my mom, who is very affected by all of this. As a mother, she wants the best for us, and seeing her like this, unable to help, must be very hard for her. My mom feels helpless, and it's natural that she wants to help in any way possible, but I've told her several times that giving her more money will only make things worse. I am the clear example of how trying to save her only pushed her further into the abyss. My sister will never learn to get out of this situation if someone is always willing to rescue her. She needs to face the consequences of her actions and find a way to move forward on her own, or this will never end. I understand that some of you have pointed out that in some ways I am responsible for the situation because I enabled her behavior in the past, and I won't deny it. For years, I helped her unconditionally without thinking about the long-term repercussions. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting her, but now I see that I was only protecting her from the lessons life was trying to teach her. That's why I've now decided not to get involved anymore. I'm not going to intervene, either financially or emotionally, because this is a lesson she needs to learn on her own. What I do know is that she has finally secured a full-time job. Since she no longer attends university, at least she has some job stability. Although I know this job doesn't pay as well as it would have if she had graduated and worked in the field she studied, at least it's a step in the right direction. She is living with a friend, which will likely help her save money and hopefully start paying off her debts. But of course, all of this depends on whether she finally becomes responsible with her money, and I have serious doubts about that. While I want to believe that she has learned something from this experience, I still feel that she hasn't changed enough to avoid falling into the same mistakes again. Update 5. My sister has managed to reach an agreement with the bank to pay off the money she owes. I don't have all the details, but it seems they've worked out some kind of arrangement that will allow her to pay the debt in more manageable installments. At least she's no longer under the immediate threat of a lawsuit or more serious legal actions. Still, the situation remains complicated for her. She tried asking my father for money to help her, but he firmly refused. As I mentioned before, my mother unfortunately no longer has any money, neither for my sister nor for herself. I guess in the end, it will be the bank that teaches her the lesson I couldn't, that money can't be spent recklessly and every debt has consequences. I don't know how long it will take her to get out of this, but at least she's taken the first step toward a solution. Even though it was forced by financial pressure, What I hope most is that all of this will finally teach my sister how to manage her finances and become more responsible with money. I'd like to think that in a few years, I could share an update and tell you that my sister is in a good place, that she's stabilized herself, and that she's learned from her mistakes. Of course, that's something only time can answer. Update 6. It's been 2 years, and I still receive some comments asking if my sister has learned her lesson. My answer is, in part, yes. The latest I know about her is that she's escaped from everything, her responsibilities and her studies, and is now living in a hippie commune. So in a way, she has changed her lifestyle, adopting one much more frugal than what she had before. I'm not sure if she has managed to pay off all her debts, but it seems like she's found a way to live with fewer material worries. I'm not sure if this is a happy or sad ending for my sister. On one hand, it's sad that she abandoned her studies and had to run away from her problems instead of facing them. On the other hand, maybe she's found a way of life that gives her peace, even though it's very different from what anyone would have imagined for her.